Hello and welcome to the Whoniverse, and another instalment of the History of Doctor Who series. This time I'm going to be taking a look at the Silence. Now there is often a misconception that the Silence is the name of a species, but actually it's the name of a religion or movement in the universe of Doctor Who. I'm going to take a look at the idea of the Silence, the different branches, such as the Kovarian Chapter, and more. So let's begin with the creation of the Silence. The Silence was founded by Tasha Lem, Mother Superioress of the Papal Mainframe, when she changed the core beliefs of the Papal Mainframe to dedicate it to ensuring that silence would fall, in response to the first question, the oldest question in the universe, that must never be answered, hidden in plain sight. Dorian Maldivor told the Doctor that the question was Doctor Who, which was the question the Doctor had apparently been running from his entire life. This question was sent by the Time Lords just after the events of the Time War, where they had been trapped in a pocket universe. The answer to this question would mean the Time Lords had found the correct universe into which they could return. It was believed that the Time War would begin anew if the Time Lords returned, and so the Church of the Silence was created, to prevent the Doctor from answering the first question and telling the Time Lords that it was safe for them to return. While the main body of the Silence attempted to prevent the Doctor from speaking his name at the Siege of Trenzalore, the Kovarian Chapter broke away to try to stop the Doctor through time travel. Madame Kovarian apparently led the Silence. Some members belonged to a race of genetically engineered priests known as Silents, who used post-hypnotic suggestion to manipulate other species into doing their bidding. All memory of the Silent would be erased from one's memory after an individual looked away from them. The Silents also employed human or humanoid agents to carry out specific tasks. These agents were often fitted with eye drives which allowed them to remember the Silents. Now, the Silence as a movement placed the vast amounts of its effort to prevent the siege on the planet known as Trenzalore. Now, Trenzalore was foretold to be the site of an immense battle of epic proportions, as many well-known and dangerous species gathered around the planet all wanting to invade and conquer, but prevented by a force field that was quickly failing. So a branch of the Silence couldn't bear the slaughter anymore, so Madame Kovarian made the Kovarian Chapter, travelling backwards through the Doctor's time stream. The plan was to create a method of killing the Doctor to prevent him ever reaching the fields of Trenzalore and speaking his name. At first, the Kovarian Chapter attempted to destroy the TARDIS. The TARDIS actually did explode on the 26th of June 2010, causing cracks to appear through time and the universe to cease to be, as the time energy from the explosion was so powerful it could erase beings from existence. The cracks in time and the idea of the Silence were mentioned by Prisoner Zero, stating silence will fall. The Saturnine Rosanna Calveri said that we ran from the Silence. Also in Venice, a mysterious silence fell over a busy marketplace as the people disappeared. The TARDIS exploding was reversed when the Doctor rebooted the universe using molecules from the original universe in the ultimate prison, known as the Pandorica. This prison was created by an alliance of the Doctor's enemies who blamed him for the cracks in the universe. When the Doctor rebooted the universe, in what he called the Big Bang 2, the scar tissue remained similar to the rift in the void. The crack was the weakest point in the universe and remained so. Because of its weakness, the crack would later be used as a potential gateway for the Time Lords who were attempting to re-enter the universe on Trenzalore. Thus, the problem that the Kovarian Chapter were trying to prevent was basically caused by them. This is known as the Destiny Trap, where you can't prevent history, only add to it. With this plan deemed a failure, the Kovarian Chapter developed a new scheme, where they saw the Doctor as such a powerful warrior they tried to cook themselves up a Time Lord. The Kovarian Chapter waited for Amy Pond, the Doctor's travelling companion, to reach the early stages of pregnancy, after her and Rory's wedding night. Soon after this, Amy Pond was kidnapped by the Kovarian Chapter, unknown to the Doctor and Rory, and replaced with a duplicate made out of the flesh, an organism that could match the details of a porcelain down to the very last detail. This was a doppelganger or ganger of Amy. Then the Silence made an alliance with the Headless Monks, and established a base at Demon's Run, a meteor in the 52nd century. This base of operations was a strong point in the quadrant that was heavily monitored. Now, some sources suggest that with the access to Amy's baby in the embryonic stage of her development, Madame Kovarian was able to steal the baby's DNA and use it to create 7 clones: Tarn, Rindle, Waddy, Creek, Stream, Beck, and Lake. These clones would go on to make a cult, which Riversong uncovered. The clones were so immersed in their discovery and their ability to regenerate that Lake wanted to test just how many times he could be reincarnated. This led to the death of the majority of the clones. However, it would later be revealed that Madame Kovarian still possessed some of the original DNA, but we'll come back to that later. Back to the main action, as the Doctor discovered that Amy he was travelling with to be fake, destabilising her and turning her into a puddle of gloop on the floor of the TARDIS, with Rory looking on horrified. Amy regained consciousness and was shown to be heavily pregnant, where she gave birth to what the Silence believed to be the salvation to a bitter end of a never-ending war. The Doctor then assembled an army of allies from many races and time periods, while Rory attacked the 12th Cyber Legion to intimidate Amy's captors, A month after Amy awoke, Demon's Run was attacked by an army of Silurians in Jadoon led by Sontaran commander Strax. A squad of Spitfires destroyed Demon's Run communications array so the Alliance could not call for help. The Doctor, Madame Vastra, and Dorian Maldivor raided the computer records left behind, discovering surprising information about Melody. The forces under Colonel Manton surrendered, but this was a trap for the Doctor. After most of his forces had withdrawn, the holding forces were slaughtered by the Headless Monks. Only the Doctor and a few friends survived, and Melody Pond was spirited away by Madame Kovarian. River Song appeared after the battle to reveal her identity to the Doctor, who had left the base before telling River to return Vastra, Jenny, Amy and Roy to their own time. After the events of Demon's Run, a large group of the Silents travelled way back in time, thousands of years into the Earth's past, since at least the time the wheel and the fire were developed. Their power allowed them to go unnoticed by the human race. The Doctor called them parasites. The Silents living on Earth were unable to develop any science or technology of their own. Instead, they relied on other species. Their manipulation of humankind may have all been related to their end goal of preventing the Doctor reaching Trenzalore. For example, they used post-hypnotic suggestion to make humans do their bidding, in such things as going to the moon, seemingly to spark the development of an astronaut suit, which would be the template for the suit they would use in later to plan to kill the Doctor. However, at this stage, the Silents themselves were becoming more corrupt and cruel, so they may not have just wanted to rule the world unnoticed by humanity in a bid to become more powerful. By 1969, the Silents had developed the spacesuit through post-hypnotic suggestion, and were able to bundle the child Melody Pond into the suit, preparing her to kill the Doctor. Then the Doctor inflicted a crushing defeat on the Silents, where he ensured that humanity saw footage of a wounded Silent they had held captive, spliced into the footage of the moon landing broadcast. In it, the Silent said, "You should kill us all on sight." It had said this to Canton, sneering at human mercy while he tried to help heal it after it had been shot. This footage was immediately viewed by 500 million humans. 500 million! It would be seen every time anyone saw the Apollo 11 landing, one of the most famous and frequently viewed film sequences in the history of humanity. There weren't enough time to implant more post-hypnotic suggestions when humans looked at them. The remainder of the Silents on Earth in 1969 seemed doomed. Melody Pond escaped from the spacesuit in the conflict, but soon became ill. Living on the streets of America, she then regenerated into her next incarnation. This incarnation was a toddler at first, but soon ended up attending the same school as young Amy Pond and Rory. There she got to know her parents by growing up at the same time as them. Mel's was rebellious and appeared to blame the Doctor for many disasters in history, such as the sinking of the Titanic. At one point in the summer of 2011, Mel's met the Doctor, held him at gunpoint, and sent him crashing into the War Office in World War II era Berlin, where Hitler was moved into a cupboard, but not after he accidentally shot Mel's, leading to her regenerating into River Song. This was River Song before she was quote-unquote good. So at first she attempted to kill the Doctor, eventually proving successful through the use of the poison of the Judas tree. The Doctor then died from the effects of the poison, but was brought back to life by River Song, who had realised the mistakes in her ways. River resurrected the Doctor using all her remaining regenerations to do so. After these events, the Doctor and the Ponds parted ways and River Song was left to recover. River then travelled to the Lunar University, where she was granted a doctorate in archaeology. The day her doctorate was awarded, the university was infiltrated by 2 Silents, Kovarian and 2 members of the Church, to re-kidnap River Song and use her in the scheme for killing the Doctor. The Silents may have been threatened, but they had what they needed: the spacesuit and River Song. They forced River into the suit and placed her in Lake Silencio in Utah. At a still point in time, this placement meant that if the Doctor was killed, it would become a fixed point in time, an event which never should be changed. So, on the 22nd of April 2011, the Doctor, Amy, Rory, and a future version of River Song picnic by a lake. Where they drink wine, the Doctor spits out in disgust, commenting he's 1,103 years old, nearly 200 years older than when Amy and Rory last saw him. Amy spots a figure watching them from a distant cliff, but forgets about it when she looks away. This is obviously a Silent. The 3 of them turn around to see an astronaut rising out of the water, wearing an Apollo 11 style spacesuit, the suit the Silents had acquired. Spotting it, the Doctor ordered his friends that they're not to interfere, no matter what happens. He knows it's a fixed point in time at this point. He approaches the astronaut, who is waiting for him at the edge of the lake. The Doctor lets the wearer of the suit know he already knows their identity, and the astronaut's visor is lifted. The Doctor talks with the astronaut, who is actually River Song, for a bit, leaving his companions confused as to what they're doing. The astronaut raises its arm and shoots the Doctor twice. River attempts to stop it, but can't. Amy tried running to the Doctor, but River and Rory restrained her. The Doctor picks himself up, as Amy calls out to him. He's begun his regeneration. He apologises to his friends and prepares to regenerate. However, the astronaut shoots him in mid-process, killing him before his transformation could be complete. As the astronaut heads back into the lake, River scans the Doctor, finding no pulse. and empties her gun, shooting at the astronaut, failing to get a hit. So, with the Doctor dead, the Silence had its mission complete. Or do they? As before the Doctor went to Lake Silencio, he wanted to know why he had to die, so asked around the universe until he met a time-travelling Tesselector, a robot housing a team of people who had been militarized. The Doctor asked a favour, which was to attend the events of his death, but inside the Tesselector. Because of this, he survived safe and sound inside the robot copy. Now this wasn't always how it ended for the Doctor, as time is known to be in flux, with some moments being rewritten. River knew this and tried to rewrite the fixed point in time of the Doctor's death, leading to a parallel timeline being created where Winston Churchill was Emperor, London had a skyline railway, and the Doctor was still alive. This timeline was more of a scrunched up piece of paper with every single moment in history pressed into a single second. In this timeline, Amy killed Madame Kovarian in cold blood. The Doctor reversed this timeline so the alternate events never happened, revealing to River his plan of using the Tesselector to cheat death. So, where the Silence believed they succeeded, they actually failed. Now not much is known about what the Silence did after these events. One source says that Madame Kovarian, who was still alive in this corrected timeline, still possessed samples of Melody's DNA, so made a new batch of clones known as H1, H2, and O. These clones were Kovarian's next plan, which was to kill the Doctor again. Very inventive, I know. This time, it was the 5th incarnation of the Doctor in danger, not the 11th. Or if you want to add the numbering of the War Doctor to the list and the 10th Doctor's vanity issues, then the 12th incarnation. Let's not get into that mess now. Brooke, the clone from earlier, had been travelling with the 5th Doctor, but was prepared to kill the Doctor. Firstly, the Doctor took Brooke and River to Vienna in the 18th century, where they discovered that Mozart had completed his final piece and decided to investigate this anomaly, while also uncovering a series of murders which involved people corroding from the inside out. She was jealous of River and tried multiple times to get rid of her, which only made River more suspicious of her. She spiked the Doctor's tea with Aqua Galaxia in an attempt to kill the Doctor with all the hate for him. However, River counteracted the hate with her love for the Doctor and left the Aqua Galaxia in his system neutralized. Then they later arrived at the bumptious gastropod, where Brooke was supposed to meet with Kovarian following her assassination of the Doctor. Brooke was left with amnesia after River used her hallucinogenic lipstick on her, while the Doctor was left without any memories of both her and River. Brooke later shot the Doctor using regeneration inhibitors, leaving him dead without the ability to regenerate. In retaliation, River shot and killed Brooke, triggering her regeneration into a new incarnation and revealing her status as a proto-Time Lord and one of River's siblings. After she had killed once, Brooke found it difficult to stop killing. Once she had returned to Kovarian's spaceship, she killed the entirety of the crew on the deck and subsequently blamed this on River's song. When H1 became jealous of Brooke being in Kovarian's favour, they got into a fight which resulted in Brooke murdering H1. She attempted to blame this on River also. Eventually, Brooke decided to side with River and turn against Kovarian. She took River's vortex manipulator and travelled back to Bumptious Slug, where she convinced Andrew Edwardson to take the Doctor's place, deceiving him into being killed by her earlier incarnation in the Doctor's place. She remained on Kovarian's ship with H2 in order to torture Kovarian and attempt to find a way past our neural block. Now, the neural block was invented to prevent Kovarian from being killed by River's clones or River herself. So with Kovarian most likely dead and another failed mission to kill the Doctor, it looked like the end of the Order of the Silence. So, with all the time travel out the way, we get back to the fields of Transalore, where the Doctor has been protecting the planet from numerous adversaries. The Doctor defended the planet until he reached close to the end of his natural life. The Time Lords then granted him another regeneration cycle, allowing the Doctor to live on. The Time Lords identified the Doctor's presence and the cracks in time closed. The Time Lords will later be shown to have returned, but in the end, I guess Silence did fall. Just not in the way that we expected. And that is the history of the Silence, an idea, a faith, a plan that was conducted over hundreds of years with time travel psychopaths named after variations of running water, and a few alternate timelines. The Silence was an order made up of many species and followers, and had branches that wished the end of the suffering of Transalore, but the true suffering was caused by their own actions. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And be sure to check out the video next week, as on the 18th of March 2018, this YouTube channel will be 1 year old, and I'm happy to celebrate this by announcing a new series of videos on the channel and other big changes that I hope you'll like the sound of. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.